Wow, Lim Lim, so much for that. That was so powerful. And I think, you asked if you answered the questions. Like, this is a panel on Indigenous dispute resolution. And, what are you doing and what are the challenges and, where is it coming from? Where is your work coming from? And I think that you answered all of those in a really powerful way. I think as a nation and a tribe that is doing this work, breaking ground in a new way, you're assessing and you're pulling things together and you're keeping those really core issues at the heart. And I think that is so powerful and so important to share. So I really appreciate that. And we now have until 10:30 for our work here. So we still have 25 minutes. So Jonathan will get you to share.
Thank you. Is my PowerPoint available? Because I sent it.
Push buttons. They added more time.
Okay, I'm going to do interpretive dance. Or
Someone
maybe
bring out a mandolin. Does it not work?
It's not. It's okay. So hi.
Do you want me to try?
How are you?
I'll try.
No, I just. There it is.
Okay.
There it is. Okay. So thank you. It's really great to be here. I had a rule. A couple of years ago, I was at a conference. I've seen Cindy speak a number of times, and one of my rules after seeing Cindy was never speak after Cindy. And now I have to add someone else to that list. So anyway, so thanks very much for the invitation. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing at Aboriginal Legal Services, and it's different because we are not a tribal organization. We are an Indigenous nonprofit agency. Our English name is Aboriginal Legal Services. More importantly, our Anishinaabe name, which was given to us by Elder Jackie LaValle after we gave her tobacco and followed protocol, is Gakina Gwai Wabama Deboywan, which translates as all those who seek the truth. It doesn't mean we have the truth. It means that our job is to help people find the truth. And there we go. So we have been interested in looking at child welfare really since I started. I just want to say, just to put this in some context, because child welfare is different in different provinces. In Ontario, the ministry funds child welfare agencies, but doesn't do the child welfare work. So we have children's aid societies. In Toronto, we have the Children's Aid Society, Catholic Children's Aid Society, Jewish Family Services, and we have Native Child and Family Services. All of those have mandates, and that can include apprehending children. We started this work in 2007, and we were working on getting this started since 1993, but there was not a format for us to start doing this work in 2007. In 2010, very important for our work, we asked for a name for the program. And we asked Elder Jacob Gone, and he came to our office and did a ceremony and burned tobacco and thought and said, your name is Giwade Nanung. The name for your program is Giwade Nanung, and that means North Star. And I sat there thinking, I have no idea why he gave us that name. But fortunately, Jake explained, and I've been working with this since. And he said that the reason your program's called North Star is because traditionally, and even now, if you're out in the woods or in the forest and you're lost, in this part of the world, you look up and you see the North Star, and you can get out. But part of that story, too, that I think about is, and this explains sort of our program, we can't get you out. You have to want to get out. You have to want to take the steps. We're there to help people. And by saying helping people, we mean helping individuals, families, children, children's aid societies, nations. We will help if people want to be helped, but you can't bring people. They have to want to go, but you have to also encourage that, set things up to encourage people to want to take the steps they need to take. Kiwaidanang is a way of taking a dispute and putting it in a different place. So one of the things that happened, and the Chief just spoke about this, that often happens with people in child welfare, let's say their child is apprehended and they go to meet with the Child Welfare Authority and they say, if you do this or this, X will happen. And they do that, and then they come back and say, okay, I've done it. And they go, yeah, but we realize now there's something more you needed to do. And the goalposts keep moving. And that's incredibly frustrating for the families. Child welfare agencies are incredibly risk averse, so they're always reluctant to do something because they're afraid of what might happen. And so one of the things about Kiwaidanang that's really important is that we take this dispute, this issue, and we move it away from the child welfare agency. And you come to our office, you come to our staff and our volunteers and our elders and teachers, and we have a circle. We have more than one circle, and I'll get to that in a minute. We have a number of circles. But at the end of each circle, because what's said in the circle stays in the circle, but at the end of the circle, we write up what people committed to do. So the parents say, I'm committed to do X or Y, and the CAS says, and if you do X or Y, we'll do this. And we write it down, and we send it out to everybody, and we say, if you have any questions about that, let us know. And no one has any questions. And then we come back in a month or 6 months or 8 months or 6 weeks, and then it's not possible to move the goalposts because there's somebody else there who heard that conversation. No, this is what you said. And so part of what our program is trying to do is repair the relationship that has broken between the Child Welfare Agency, which has the power, and the family, and to help that reconnection. And part of that is to be there and to let people know these are the goalposts, they're moving, no, they're not. And that's one of the important things that we do. One of the other things that we realize, and I'm just mindful of time, so I'm watching, is that these things aren't, you can't expect miracles. You can't expect one circle to solve generations, years and years of the impact of colonialism. That ain't gonna happen. And if you try and do it in one circle, it's just not gonna work. So we do a number of circles, and we tell people before the circle starts, we're not gonna work this out today. This is gonna happen over time. And we'll take as many circles as we need to get this as close to a resolution as we can. And sometimes it's 1 or 2 circles. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 circles. Sometimes all it takes is us calling the Children's Aid Society to say the parents come to see us and things get worked out. And this is one of the important things that I want to stress about our program. We take referrals from the parents. They can come to us. We don't wait for referrals from the agencies. And the other thing I want to say just as we move through this, just to put this in some context, where I work in Toronto, we have 60, 70, 80, 100,000 Indigenous people in the Greater Toronto area. We have no First Nations within 100 kilometers. So everybody is from somewhere, and some people are from Toronto, they're generations in Toronto, but their roots aren't in Toronto. And so we need to reach out, and we need to recognize that we are working with an incredibly diverse population. All nations, blended families, Indigenous families, 2 nations, non-Indigenous, that's what we're working with. And so we have to understand that in doing this work, which makes us distinct from these other programs and makes it also very important for us to be able to reach out to other nations to say, look, you need to be in the circle with us because we can't give your members your teachings because we don't know what they are. And so we do a lot of virtual hearings. We make sure that the families are present and the CS are present, but we invite the nations to be there. And there's capacity issues without question. But we've noticed in the last couple of years more participation from nations, and that makes a huge difference. One of the other things that's important is to be able to do work with people before and after the circles. So we start by meeting with the families before the circles and talking to them. People that we work with often have histories with child welfare themselves, and they need to be able to get some of their feelings out before they get into the circle, because the purpose of the circle is not for people to deal with all their trauma. It's to focus on the children. The children need to be at the center, but in order to be fair to the families, we need the parents to get at those issues with elders and teachers, and we continue to do that work. So there's a lot of work between circles. That becomes really important. Circles are wonderful, but they are not in and of themselves, they're not going to give you all the answers. So you have to do the work, and what that led to is we've started to develop other programs. We've developed a program called Dreams from Growing Children, which is it's essentially a parenting program, healthy relationships. How are you going to learn to work with child welfare? How are you going to learn to work with other people when you're frustrated? That becomes part of the services that we offer. As I said, we work with everyone. We have to work with everyone. We try as much as possible to keep lawyers out of the circle. I say this with great respect to members of my profession, of whom I am required to deal with great civility. But they're really a pain in the circle. So we try and, sometimes you need to have them, but if we can do without them, we will. So why does the program work? And it does work. We are very successful. We've seen a lot of successes. What does success mean? That depends. Like, we can't define success as X, because you don't know what success is. What success is, at its heart, is having the family having a role in making a meaningful decision. Sometimes it's helping families realize, no, they're not ready. So who is ready? Is there someone in your family who can take a kinship relationship? Can we enter into a customary care agreement? What relationship do you have with the caregivers? All of those things are crucial. We're successful, and we want to make sure that children are never separated from their other siblings. Wherever they go, they can't be separated. Children always want to know where their children are. They always want to know where their parents are. Doesn't matter whether we separate them or not. Children are going to go back to their parents. They're going to want to find their siblings. We need to help people culturally find their spirit. For many of the people, we introduce them to Indigenous concepts. We can't do their teachings, but we give them what they can. The timer has now told me to stop. So quickly, and these slides, by the way, for those of you taking pictures of them, because they're beautiful, they're going to be available to you. Okay, so that's good. So here are the sorts of circles we offer, all sorts of different areas: child welfare, post-apprehension, temporary care agreements. These are all, some of these terms are very specific to Ontario. Access. We've started to move into civil areas where there's no child welfare disputes, but families are having disputes around custody and access and family conflict. So I'm around. I'm happy to talk to people later. Just a couple things. Don't look at this now. You get a headache. But when you get the slide, this is sort of our triage process, because this is really freaking complicated. And there are two things here that I'd like you to take a look at when you get the slides. These are examples of how the program works and how, over a number of circles, issues get resolved. There are pluses and minuses, there are ebbs and flows. It's a challenge, but over time, whatever time is needed, things can work. So you'll see two examples here. This is the first one, this is the second one. Read them when you get them. If you need more information, that's who I am. Miigwech.